do is for us to look at self-discovery. You see a man, somehow this picture also, I found it to be very, very interesting and very, very instructional as far as self-discovery is concerned. And the important thing here is, who am I? Self-discovery is the first step towards personal development. You cannot develop yourself if you do not know yourself. You cannot develop yourself if you do not know yourself. And that's why that very first question is very important. Is very important. Who am I? And we're going to be looking at that. Now, look at this picture. You have a cat, and in the mirror, the cat is looking at itself in the mirror, but in the mirror, the cat is seeing a tiger. And the question of who are you is very important to the reflection of your image, because what you see yourself to be in the mirror is actually what is going to determine your output outside. And that's what we're going to be looking at. So who are you? You will have to respond to these important elements I'm going to be mentioning. When you define yourself, the first thing about you is about your identity, which has to do with your origin. And many a time we define ourselves from our earthly origin, and we forget that we are also from a divine origin. We forget that we have a divine origin. The Bible makes us to understand, when you read Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, God was saying to Jeremiah, he said, before you were conceived, I knew you. Before you were born, I have ordained you as a prophet to the nations. So many a time we define ourselves just from our earthly background. We define ourselves from our tribe. We define ourselves from our country. We define ourselves from our gender perspective, but we forget the divine perspective. And I'm going to be helping you to understand that. The next thing is in who you are is about your purpose and your missions. When you define yourself, you got to me a while ago when I was introducing myself, for those who were opportune to be at the very beginning. And when I was introducing myself, I talked about when I got on again. That's to help you to understand already my identity, and to also help you to know, the divine perspective about me. And I talk about my purpose, and I talk about my vision. So when you are defining yourself, it is important that you make mention of your purpose and your mission. And the next thing is about your vision. It's important to define your vision. It's part of your identity. It's part of your identity. So your vision is part of who you are. It's part of who you are, because it's greatly embedded into you. And also your values. What are your values? Who you are, your values define who you are. And it is very, very important for you to have, that understanding about yourself. So the next thing about you is your skills and your talents. Your skills and your talents, they make you different from other people. They make you peculiar from other people. And that's why in defining yourself, you need to talk about your skills and you need to talk about your talent. So the next thing is about your personality and temperament. When you define yourself, it's important to know who you are in terms of personality and in terms of temperament. Many people do not know their temperament. If you are going to progress in the field of personal development and be able to develop yourself, you need to know your personality and you need to know your temperament. Why do you react the way you react? People react differently to the same situation. People act differently in the same situation. So why do you act the way you act? You should be able to define your personality and define your temperament. And as we move to the next slide, we see another cat looking at itself in the mirror and seeing a lion. And the saying is this: how you see yourself outside depends on who you are inside. How you see yourself outside depends on who you are in the inside. And this has a lot to do with your self-esteem. This has a lot to do with your self-esteem. And if you're not able to see yourself in the right perspective, it is going to influence you. Your self-esteem is greatly influenced by what you see inside. This is very important. So your self-discovery builds your self-confidence. Your self-discovery builds your self-confidence. By the time you know what your vision is, you know your values, you know your identity, it builds your confidence. And confidence, self-confidence is what gives the lion the audacity to go against a giraffe, to go against an elephant. It's an issue of self-confidence. If you put the lion and the giraffe, and you put the lion and the elephant, you will find out that the giraffe and the elephant are far bigger than the lions. But what gives the lions that boldness, that audacity to go and to pray an elephant or a giraffe? It is a matter of self-confidence, and that's very, very important when you talk about self-discovery.